Has the Quran discussed trauma that, we don't have control over? Absolutely. This is why in the month of Ramadan, outside the month of Ramadan, we should come to every single possible theme and ask the Quran, this book that is alive, this book that never dies, this book that gives us the best advice as a way of life, and say, I have jealous family members. Does the Quran address this? Boom, it's right there. I come from a single parent family. Does the Quran address this? It's right there. I have, serious issues within my marriage, of betrayal and so on and so forth. Does the Quran address it? It's right there. One of childhood traumas that you don't have control over as a child was addressed in the Quran. The trauma that it has on the child and on the mother. The story of the Prophet Musa. This guy's an infant. He was just born. Allah inspires this woman. وَإِذْ أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَىٰ أُمِّ مُوسَى. We inspired the mother that do what? Take this baby, put him in a basket, put the basket in the Nile. Now, can you imagine the trauma that, this is the Surah Al-Qasas, that a mother has to go through? Not knowing, okay, did I just destroy my own child that I buried in my stomach for 9 months? And this child, what's going to happen to him? He shows up at, Pharaoh's palace, he grows up there, he knows they're not his real parents. He never had real parents, So Allah discusses this in the Holy Quran. Now, as a child growing up, facing trauma within family, Yusuf. That's the most beautiful story. Yusuf was very young when his brothers took him and they threw him in the well and he ended up as a slave. They sold him as a slave.
So, if I may ask you, how does these episodes give us a take-home message in managing today's childhood trauma?
Very good. So a lot of people come to me and they email me or they WhatsApp me or text me or I meet them, all sorts of ways. And I believe that childhood trauma is one of, if I were to make a list of top 10 things that people talk to me about, one of them is childhood trauma. I want to say this part that you don't have control over, or your parents were poor. They didn't deliberately let you live in poverty, okay? You were refugees. They actually went through a lot of pain and difficulty to get you where you were, but now that you were there, you were poor, you were struggling. So things you didn't have control over, how should they resonate with you? Honestly, I feel that people should not let themselves become the product of their circumstances. Find a way to move on. Find a way to reconcile, to live with your past, and accept the fact that it was a difficult moment, it was a test, it was a tribulation, it wasn't pleasant, it wasn't milk and honey, whatever it was. But don't live your whole life thinking, and I'll give you an example. I can't get into medical school. I can't become a lawyer. I can't become a CEO. Why? Because I grew up in poverty. I didn't go to a good public school. I didn't go to a private school. I didn't have tutors. I didn't have this.
So you're setting yourself up for failure.
So you're not, but your mind is manipulating you in a sense that it's telling you, look, this is where you are. You're going to end up being a manager at Walmart at best. And that guy, yes, he's going to be your doctor. He's going to be your attorney. He's going to be your CEO. And your mind kind of lets you accept the situation. Why? Because that kid went to a good private school. He had educated parents. He didn't have to, at night worry about dinner. His dinner was also there for him and all that. So now, with that, you say, okay, fine, I'll struggle. Maybe my kids can. Don't put yourself in that position. That's the first thing that I want to kind of address.
I think at the same time, there needs to be a recognition that a lot of what happens with childhood trauma actually changes the structure of the brain along the way. And for someone to encourage, and that's necessary. But let's face it, in those circumstances, you need to get the counseling that allows you to reformulate how you should think, how you can do it.
Absolutely.
So getting appropriate help is part of
That's
what we should
exactly
do.
yes.
And the reason I bring this up is because mental health issues, whether it's PTSD, depression, schizophrenic, etc., are such a taboo in so many of our cultures that so many more can be helped and then lead fruitful lives if people would support their need to get the help.
Very good. So that's exactly what I wanted to say. In order for us to reconcile with the past, we need professional help. And there's nothing wrong. For you to understand that you have had not an easy past compared to others, how do I understand it? How do I reconcile with it? How do I, why was I unlucky enough for my parents to go through a divorce? There's nearly 1 million divorces every year in America. 900,000, 970,000. Nearly 1 million families are split in America. You think this goes without trauma for their children or for their... So now, let's say from 2000 to 2022, you have a 22-year-old that went through that, but you also have 22 million families that are split. You have 44 million people who are suffering from divorce trauma, right? Anyways, I don't want to, we may talk about that some other night, but to come back to what you said, I agree. We need professional